Ben Street, welcome to your podcast truck that
Thank you.
I happen to be in doing this crazy iSigma on Air podcast. This is really cool. We're in the back of a Shred Tech truck. What truck are we in, by the way?
Well, so this is one of our MDS trucks, which is going to be your standard entry level. I don't want to say it's small because it's a large size shred truck. It's just the smallest of the large shred trucks. But this would be what we call a 3S26. So on the other side of this wall is cart storage and the shredding system. And then we're sitting in this giant compartment where all the shredded paper actually ends up. Thousands of pounds of shredded documents fill up the back of one of these trucks.
Yeah, and really cool. You gave iSigma the opportunity to use this truck as the podcast studio. And I had, I think you and I talked about this at one point, I had thought it would be kind of cool to bring an Airstream trailer in and do something in the back of that.
Yep.
And you said, why don't we use one of the trucks? And when I heard that, I went, my gosh, I love this idea. I think it's such a cool idea. And Ben, you helped completely outfit this. You did it basically with your team. Outfitted the walls on this, and so we got this really cool little studio that nobody even recognizes exists.
Right.
So we had the speaker, the AI futurist innovation speaker, Pablos Holman, in today.
Oh, awesome.
He came in and he goes, what the heck is this? And he goes, I don't think anybody in the history of the world has ever done a podcast in a shred truck.
Right,
So
right.
it was, anyways, kind of cool. So, thank you for sponsoring this and being such a big part of making this happen. So thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thanks. Thanks for having me on the podcast.
Yeah.
It's nice to sit back here, and this is our first sound booth. First sound booth shred truck, but maybe
I think
maybe
in
it's
the
not the
history
last.
of the universe.
Yeah,
like it to me is such a cool concept. So tell me a little bit about who you are and what you do at Shred Tech.
Yeah, so I'm, for everybody who doesn't know already, I'm Ben Street. I'm the marketing director at Shred Tech, and essentially, Shred Tech isn't just shredding trucks. Shred Tech is a manufacturer of shredders that go from small size for hard drives and DVD and generally small items that you're trying to destroy securely, all the way up to gigantic shredders that weigh as much as a 737. They have a mouth on them as big as a garden shed. They're about the size of a school bus, essentially. Giant metal school bus that shreds incredibly tough stuff. That's just the Shred Tech side of the business. Then there's heavy machinery distribution. 3R Machinery is a distributor of European product lines of shredders and dust separation. And then we have an entire company that's dedicated to tire shredding as well. CM Shredders just makes shredders and shredding systems end-to-end for tire recycling.
Really?
So it's unique to be able to work on the marketing story behind all of these brands because they're so different. A shred truck is totally unlike a tire shredding system.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So when I first met you, I went, I feel like I know you, but I don't know you. So tell me a little bit about your entrance into this industry. I mean, you've just recently come into the industry.
Yeah, I've been with Shred Tech now almost 2 years. I've got one more month to go, and then I'm at my 2-year mark. This is completely different. I come from grilling. I'm a gas charcoal pellet grill guy. I worked in marketing in the grilling industry for years. I spent 17 years in that industry. I spent
selling like grills that we put in the back of our houses and grill steaks on.
And like anything else, marketing's all storytelling.
Yeah.
So when you really hone your craft and figure out how to tell a great story on one product, you can take that process and replicate it elsewhere with other product lines. But to come to here, it couldn't be any more different. I get to use the marketing skills that I have, but apply it to a completely different type of industry.
So because grills are consumer, right? So there's but I'm guessing if you were working with a manufacturer, you're selling it to other retailers. So there's there's the story that goes there, but you're also generally as a manufacturer selling the story of the grill to a homeowner end user. In this industry, you're not selling the shred truck to the end user. You're selling it to the service provider.
Yeah.
So tell me how you've had to sort of reconstruct. Let's stay in this shredding industry specifically. How have you had to think about the story of Shred Tech from the perspective of that? Like, how does your brain go to work on this thing?
Well, I always start off the conversation as if I know nothing, because I think that's an easy way to segue into the people that know a lot.
Yeah.
And start pulling out of their brains those tidbits that they don't know that they know. Your sales team is full of valuable information. Your engineers are full of valuable information. And as long as you can get into that conversation where you kind of play dumb and you ask probing questions of, What does that mean? Don't assume that you know all the terminology in the room. Stop them sometimes and say, tell me more about that. Tell me more about how that system works. Why is this payload area back here so big? Right. How much paper goes in here? I think you and I talked the other day about the equivalency of how much is 21,000 pounds of paper.
Right.
No one can relate it to a physical thing they have around them. So you need to step it up in pieces. When you're coming to someone who's new, and in this industry, like all industries, there's turnover. You have new people that come in. They need to learn to talk the talk, walk the walk in the industry, but they need that relatable in piece. So when you can create those equivalencies, you kind of have the basis of the story, and then it's just putting the components together. But I just love to ask probing questions as if I know nothing, so that I can take what they say, reshape it, say it back to them. And if they like it, perfect. Otherwise, we iterate and try something new.
Got it. So you come into this industry and you start going, how many, there's 21,000 pounds of paper in the back. And your brain goes, how do we make that something that we can tell a story on that's logical to the person who's trying to buy a shred truck?
Yeah. How do we make it relatable? And what do we key in on that matters? You could go as granular as you want. Many product lines, companies are great with this. They focus on what's hard, and they think they're selling what's hard. The customer wants to buy why you made it easy. So when we develop many products, say any of the electronics in this room right now, the engineers spent an incredible amount of time on the imaging sensor inside the camera, the ability for the microphone to cut out proximity noise away from it, right? They could talk about how hard that was to create, but the customer doesn't care.
Right.
They only care about how much easier and how much better it makes their experience. So you often have to take those really complex pieces that you have and say, is that a feature? Or is that just built in? Is that expected? Works as intended is not something you tell your customer that they're buying. You can't say to someone, oh, by the way, did you know it really works? Of course it does. It has to work. That's what we expect with any consumer product. Right. So you really need to get to the real sell features of what makes it unique. And actually, that's what I love about this industry. I can talk to our customers about their customers because our products have to fit their needs, not the needs in the middle. We need to make sure that we're making something that makes it easier for the end user to trust, to get it done quickly, to have something that's going to be, reliable for our customer as well. But often it's the end user experience.
Right. So one of the things you did, which I think is so cool, is yesterday you did a presentation to iSigma, to whoever showed up in your room, to talk about how to think about marketing. So in sort of short form, what was the essence of what you taught the group yesterday?
Yeah, well, the idea is, last year my session was entirely on prioritizing your marketing mix. Yep. So we take a look at everything that's in your marketing mix and say, you have one person, two people, five people, an agency working on your marketing for you. No matter how many resources you have, there is a limit to what you can do. Right. So last year's session was prioritize the resources you have around the components of your entire mix. It's broad, it's big. It opened them up to the idea of look at the whole thing and don't underinvest and don't overpromise in your marketing. This year we got specific. So we did the same type of approach, but for digital. And I always build my presentations for the specific audience that we have. Right. I don't want to teach people to do what my team knows how to do. I'm not trying to teach the owner of a company to be a marketer. Let's be serious. They're not doing it. Right. They're not interested in doing it, but they do need to talk to the person who does. They need to understand how to convey their expectations, their goals correctly. They need to understand what's being said back to them and why it's important and why some things are more important than others. So with the digital marketing presentation, I usually like to break it into components. So it's 5 key pieces that tell a business owner what they need to focus on in digital. So I start off with framing a lot of the terminology. And the terminology is the standard buzzwords. Love buzzwords in marketing. Yep. All of the 3-letter abbreviations that you get. Right. We go through the terminology, and then we basically break into how do we have a cohesive customer journey from end to end with all the components? How important is content? Who's writing your content? Do you give it to the most junior person on your team? Do you give it to a marketing agency that doesn't understand your value proposition at all? Right. So they just make it up. They make it up completely. Right. And it probably doesn't resonate with your customers. So it's the level setting on those pieces. Focus on your content, get it right. Get your website right. Make sure your website sells everything that you actually sell. Right. And then make sure your customer journey or ads link up to those products. If you're not selling something that's on your site, or your site it is missing something that you sell, why would you ever expect to sell it? you're only relying on humans or word of mouth or basically any other invisible way for people to find out about it.
Yeah, and so a lot of what you said, a lot of these, and the rank and file member in our industry is not huge. They could be 3 to 7 trucks, let's say. That's kind of the bread and butter of our industry in the shredding side, and a lot of those generally are outsourcing, or somebody on the team has an element of responsibility for the different partners. And I as an executive coach, I get to see under the hood sometimes, and I realize there's Mary who answers the phones part-time, and Mary also does this, but she also works with a lead gen company, and she's responsible to talk to the agency that's doing pay-per-click, and they might have another vendor who's touching their website. So how should they be thinking, not just the owner, but because so much of this is fragmented too. Like there's not a clear understanding of what you said first, which is the message from the start to finish. And then is everything there? I mean, people go, just build me a website, and they got a website, and it's like, well, you're missing, there's no telephone. Where's the telephone number? There's no cohesive story because you want somebody to call you. So what's the step or the action step that somebody needs to do right away coming out of your presentation? But what's an owner or a person in these smaller businesses that's running like a chicken with their head cut off most days? Where do they start? What's the first next step?
Well, I think the first and the biggest step is to realize their limitations. Look at what you have and what you can do with it. Marketing is weird in most companies because you're giving something that's fairly complex. It's always treated like arts and crafts. I consistently feel that marketing is the arts and crafts of a business. Finance is complicated. Engineering is complicated. Marketing is arts and crafts. And when you treat it that way, who do you give it to? It's the side of the desk for somebody on your team.
Right.
It's not a priority. Or it's the most junior person on your team.
Right.
We have a summer intern. They're going to take care of marketing. They'll post on social media sometimes. They'll update the website. Things will be great. Really? Apply those rules to your finance team now. We brought in a summer intern. They're now in charge of finance. Congratulations, everybody. Things will be fine. They won't. And when you put those expectations on that person, it's unrealistic. I've talked to a lot of junior marketing people that are expected to be an expert in SEO, web development, content writing. You have to be an incredibly talented writer to be a good content writer. They have to take care of the social media management, the paid advertising. They need to know print. Print layout is complicated. Graphics design is complicated. These are all jobs, and we expect that there's going to be a catch-all person that can do all of them. You'll get experience. You'll get your chops in all of these pieces, but every marketer has a specialty that they've spent more time in than other pieces. But it is, so basically level setting is the first place to start.
Okay.
And then the next part is just take a look at your footprint, your digital footprint, and audit it. Honestly, look at yourself and say, is our website a 1 or is it a 10?
Right.
Our e-blast, do we have a 1 or a 10? Maybe we're a 3. Maybe we don't send them at all, so that's a 0.
Right.
And go through all of the digital steps and say, what are we doing? What are we not doing? Some of them you don't even need to do. Most companies feel that they're obligated to post on social media. For what? If you can't look at yourself and say, I sold this because of Instagram, why are you posting on Instagram? You're doing it for fun, which is okay. It's okay to get your brand out there. It gives you brand awareness. It makes you more likable. Okay. But on all marketing tools, there's eventually a diminishing rate of return. When are you spending so much money or time on it, which is the same thing really, where you are no longer getting anything out of it?
Yeah. And one of the things I try and walk my clients through is really make sure they have clarity about where's my investment and where's my return. But they can't even get to the investment return conversation until there's that pre-step, which is you're talking about, which is like, what are we actually doing in this stuff? Right. It's one thing to say, let's measure the return on investment of your pay-per-click ads, and you're buying clicks on Google and you're spending $2,000 a month. But if you're not tying it ultimately to a sale at the end, because it's service, it's a, somebody needs shredding, they call or they fill in a form or they do something, and there's an action that creates a result. But if you can't tie that together, then you can't even measure ROI. But if you know all the pieces and parts that need to be in place. But a lot of times what doesn't happen is we go to a chamber of commerce and we hear, oh, you need to be on social media and post 36 times a week. But what's missing is, what if nobody And if you don't understand your ROI, what if nobody's doing that thing? Like nobody's watching it. You never get a response from that.
Right. And we get sucked into, I think we get sucked into something very easily with marketing, which is everybody's an armchair expert.
Yeah.
And you will always have a friend that comes up and says, you need to do this. You need to start using AI. You've got to use this fancy new tool. You can buy a CRM that'll cost you thousands per month, but will you use it? Do you have enough staff to utilize it appropriately? Will you look at the metrics that come out of the CRM, or are you just too busy keeping customer records updated? Right. Yeah. They're great if you use them. Every digital tool is great. I'm convinced of it. But who's going to use it? Marketing's kind of like a press shop in manufacturing. If you have 8 presses and 6 people show up to work, you can run 6 presses at a time. You could probably run all 8 today, but you can only run 6 at a time. So if you have a lot of shiny marketing tools, if you don't have the heads to use them, they just sit and they grow digital dust. Right. And then people ask questions. What do we do with it? What was my ROI on this tool? And the ROI calculation is actually pretty basic in marketing. You know exactly what you're spending. And as long as your goals are reasonable and measurable, you can really get a sense of what it's worth. I think in anything that's B2C, it's much more measurable, especially when you have a website, especially when you can say, we ran an ad, it took you to a landing page, you were convinced, and then you purchased directly from a button on that page. Now, when it gets transferred to a human, it gets more complicated because really, who did the work? Did the ad do the work, or did the human win the sale?
Yeah, no, and that I love your concept of arts and crafts versus critical business toolkit, right? Or function in the business. Accounting is often seen as a critical function in the business, but if you don't see marketing as a critical function in your business, how do you defer it? But that I've never heard anyone say it before. I love that concept, arts and crafts instead of a serious, important position in your business. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's probably because it's more visual, it's more enjoyable, it's less hands-on. I get the optics of it. It's much like trade shows, right? Anyone who doesn't go to a trade show assumes that trade shows and conferences are a vacation. We're all sitting by the pool or getting massages. It's not the case. It's your day starts at 7 a.m. and it goes until you're done. Your relationship building, you're honing your sales pitch, you're explaining features that you may not have got in front of a customer before. But I wouldn't say any of these days are easy. It's just there's the optics of it's easy. Right.
So having been in the industry for a couple of years now and having really dug into a lot of what makes the industry tick. So you're looking not just at the trucks, but you're looking at clients and their clients. What do you feel like many shredders and shred operators are missing that they need to be doing? And it could be marketing, could be other things. But what do you see from your perspective that you go, I wish they would just do this? Like what's something you see as a gap?
I think they all understand really well what they want to replicate. They know it works, and they know their current success model. So they're looking for, do I expand geographically or find the next person in my geography that does the same thing as my current customer? Where's the next law firm? Where's the next school? Where's the next government contract? They get those well. I really liked what Carl Gould had to say yesterday, which was find the lowest unit of measure, put a price on it. Because I said to one of our shredders after, I said, so what's your smallest unit of measure? He's like, well, we usually go for recurring contracts. And I said, okay. But if you ran some social ads or put something up on your website that says a box of paper, $50, securely shredded. And his immediate response was, that's way too expensive. And I said, I would have no idea. As a consumer that could hear about what you have to offer, I would have no idea how much that costs. And really, for me, it's only $50 in the course of, several years? My tax documents, my government documents, they build up really slowly. Yeah. Eventually, I want to get rid of them securely. If you told me it was 50 or 100, it's the same number in my head. I am not in the shredding industry. So I like his concept because you get to capitalize on people that are outside of your audience. Right. Your current customers know the going rate. A customer that isn't your current customer and has nothing to do with this industry has no idea how much it costs to shred a document, a box of paper, or a bunch of stuff I have at home. Yeah. If I bring you 5 file folders and you tell me it's $25, I'm probably getting ripped off. And I know that because I'm in the industry here. But if I was coming in as a consumer, I'd say $25 seems like a good deal. Perfect. Right. I'm in.
Especially if it's stuff that is critically important to you and you go, I want nobody to have this.
Yes.
I want nobody to know this paperwork
exists. It's easy, it's secure, and relatively in my sense of how often I do this, this is cheap. That $25 for me, I've amortized over the period of starting to collect documents to now I need to destroy them. That could be 3 years, 5 years, 10. Make it easy. The price is kind of subjective in that piece.
Yeah.
So I really like that he said that because it's a different way of looking at it completely.
Yeah, really good. That thing that you get. Interesting. I talked to Melanie from Shred Nations yesterday, and she said that 30% of all leads that cross their door are residential right now.
Right.
And people don't want them.
All right. Why turn it away?
That's
you have to look into the lead anyway. It costs you money to find out if they're a business or if they're a person.
And to me, Carl Gould's message spoke to that 30%. And a lot of shredders go, well, it doesn't fit in my plan.
Yep.
Right. But there's something there. Because we're not generally growing now with corporate clients. They're there and they're there because somebody got acquired and, somebody's screwing up somewhere and you get those ones. But generally, there's not a lot of big opportunity. It's just now moving from vendor to vendor in terms of corporate stuff. But that gap, that 30% of the marketplace that is not vended and will never be, but there's a constant flow of it. That's, to me, what Carl Gould was talking about. There's an opportunity there.
Yeah, and the home runs in any industry are a great way to keep the lights on.
Yep.
And to keep the business efficient. It pays for more trucks. It helps you grow your CapEx. But it's not as profitable. You know, dollar for dollar, it's just nowhere close to profitable. You do business with a company like Walmart, your margins are way thinner than they would be for an independent store. Of course, it's the volume. Now, doing business with the major players does get you a lot of operational efficiency. Awesome. But it's not driving revenue. And it's a home run. So don't expect to get them all the time.
Yeah. Well, thank you. This has been really good. You're brilliant. So today, actually just a couple hours ago, you were awarded a Corporate Partner of the Year. So congratulations. That's really cool.
That was a great surprise and an incredible honor. I don't think I could stop smiling from the time I stood up to the time I sat back down. So I probably looked a little bit silly walking back to my seat.
Well, I think those recognitions are such a, it's one thing to accept it, but it's another thing to go, I did. I put the work in. I did the work. I showed up. I built helped build a booth for a crazy ass guy who's trying to have interviews. And all that kind of stuff takes somebody who's got a vision for it, but is also committed to the association. So thank you for everything you're doing.
I appreciate that.
Continue to do. And, I think the other part of it, which is so cool, is you bringing your insight and wisdom to the group through your teaching and your training and your sessions the last couple of years. So thank you for that as well.
Thank you.
It's really cool. And finally, thank you for this truck. Again, I started with that, but I'm going to end with it. Thank you for having a vision to say, let's do this podcast in a shred truck. So
I'm glad it worked out. I'm glad that we could do this, and I'm very glad we can be here having this conversation today. And thank you.
Thank you, Ben. You're the best.
Thanks. Thank you, Tom.